what I said I'd talk about today was how to look at and alter the settings of content you create with Page Builder to get the display and layout on a mobile or a tablet device the way you want it. By default, Page Builder will flow columns vertically down a page onto a mobile phone screen, and you can change that relatively easy once you realize where all the settings are to lay those out however you want and play around quite a lot with some of the stuff you can do. So I've got my own page, my blank site to test stuff on here ready for you all. Before I get too far into this, if you are watching live, drop me hashtag live. If you're watching on a replay, drop me hashtag replay. And any comments in the meantime, drop them in the comments below, and I'll come back to them if I can today. Otherwise, I'll one for the next time round. So what I'm going to do on my home page, I'm going to create a couple of rows in there just to get some content in for the sake of it. So I'm going to put 3 columns, and I'm going to, just for ease, just add 3 images to those columns and move them around. And I'm going to save that. I know that people will say use a front end editor. I don't like it yet. I haven't got used to it. If I reload the front page, you'll see those 3 images now in the column to match the layout of the back end there. And if I switch this to shrink down to mobile view, you'll see that those 3 images now just flow vertically 1, 2, 3 on top of each other, which might be fine. You might not need to do any more than that, but sometimes for whatever reason you might want to change that, have a little change and make them work differently. So as a starter, if I look at the column options, I can change the responsive settings for that column. Now in Page Builder at the moment, you're limited, or well, limited, the number of columns you can split one row into has to add up to 12. So if you set one column to be 3, another one to be 3, the other one has to be 6. Otherwise, it looks a little bit strange once you start to play with it. You can do it, but it can't go above 12. So what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to say for mobile, I'm going to set these all as a 4. All these columns as a 4, 3 4s are 12. And tick that and then save it. So on desktop, it won't look any different at all. It will still stay as 3 images in a row. On mobile before, it switched to vertical flow. However, now we've fixed it. We've locked it to show 3 columns on a mobile as well. So if you wanted to do that way, that's one easy way of doing things in there. We can get a bit cleverer than that if we want to. So we can, for example, in here, within responsive, we can hide it on mobile. That means on a mobile phone, that column will not show. So now that middle column's hidden, nothing's there. You might want to use that, for example, if you want something different to show on mobile than desktop. So if I go back to here and add just a text block for now, I'll leave it as it was, standard, and save. On desktop, I'm going to get both of those. On mobile, because I've set the column, that's why. So that's on the column settings. I'm going to delete that off there to do it. If I take those back out again, sorry, I don't want the column hidden on mobile. I'm going to take the column hidden off mobile off, but I'm going to go into the image, and in the image I'm going to hide that on mobile instead. And I'll show you why in a second that works. So now again, we've got 3 on a mobile, the middle image is hidden. If I then add a text block back in to that column, but I'm not going to change the visibility for mobile. On desktop, I've got middle column has got a text and an image with it. If I go to mobile, it's only got the text, which has flowed vertically as we'd expect. So sometimes you might want to have, I don't know, less text perhaps on mobile. So you could create 2 text blocks, hide one for desktop, show on a mobile, vice versa. You can do the same for tablet as well. Any of these settings here, if I look into the advanced ones for the image, I can hide on tablet, desktop, and the same for the column options in responsive. Again, you can set the tablet layout to be locked. You can play with a tablet layout relatively just by moving your browser width. As long as you've still got that mobile menu, see when that changes back to a 3-column, a 3-row set of images there, that's the breakpoint. That's mobile, breakpoint becomes tablet. So if I go back to this one and I'm going to change the column options, responsiveness to 4 for tablet as well. So now at that breakpoint, I'm going to get rid of that text box to set the visibility on there, back just to keep it easy. So again, back on desktop, I've got my 3 images. On tablet now, I've got my 3 images in a row, and on mobile it shrinks down to be 3 as well. My logo's too big there, need to shrink that down. So what else can we do? Well, you can be a bit clever. So say you wanted to change the order of this. So say you wanted to have 2 images together and one big one beneath it for mobile. So what I can do there is I can go to the column options, and for mobile I can set the first 2 as 6, which adds up to 12. Clearly, if your maths is good, mine's not bad today. And on the column options, I'm going to set this one as 12. So again, for the desktop view, no change. However, for mobile now, I've got 2, 2, 3. So I've been able to fiddle a little bit with the layout of there just to change how that works, however you want to, really. You could do it 12, 6, 6, whatever reason you want to do, whatever layout you want to do, you can play with it there. What else can we do? So as an example on, I'm going to take the column options out of this. As you can see, you can set different ones for tablet and mobile as you need to. I'm going to take them all out so that there's 0. So reload that page so that they're all back one above the other. So for example, what you may want to do is change the spacing. So say on the desktop version, quite commonly I'll take the margins out of this so that there's no margins at the top or bottom or around the outside of anything that I'm playing on. I don't need it in a row. Yeah, so say I've done that, which for desktop works fine. But on mobile, what happens if I've got those set to flow one on top of the other, the gap has gone between those 3 images. So now they look like they're one image. It might not be the same if it's different photos or whatever, but it does for this one. So what I want to do now is I can change the margin for, again, tablet and mobile. So I'm going to change these back to 0, 0, 30px, 0. I'm going to do the same on there for the mobile. Untick the padlock. If you leave the padlock in, wherever you type in any box will be overwritten across them all. So I don't want that. I just want that 0, 0, 30px, 0. Save. What I'm going to do for the sake of understanding what I mean by this is I'm going to set a color background on the row beneath it. So now I've got the default 50 pixel gap at the top and bottom of a row. However, on mobile now, I've got the 30px image gap beneath the picture. So that means on desktop, I retain the 50px above and below. If I leave the 30px in to one of these, what happens is the gap beneath actually changes. It takes up space within the row. You might not want to do that for the sake of neatness and keep all of your margin gaps the same. So if I set that as 30, you can see the bottom gap jumps to take the 30px gap out. We don't need that. At least on that layout, I don't want that in, for example. So I'm going to take it out again. But on mobile now, I've been able to control the gap between those 3 images. So that could be any add-on. Doesn't have to be an image. Could be text, a carousel, a slideshow, anything at all you've added in there. You can change the settings for that specific element on that specific breakpoint of screen. I don't think I've got any comments yet. I'm keeping an eye on that one, but if I have, I've just got people liking. That's fine, no problem at all. Cool. So I mean, that's the thought I walked of it. You can play with anything in here. You can't do the advanced stuff at row level, can you? Yeah, you can. So again, you can hide a row. I have used this before. I've got one site where we needed a fairly different layout for the hero section on a mobile phone and a tablet versus the desktop. So I actually created 2 rows, and one row in the options I hid it on mobile and tablet, and on the other row I hid it on desktop, so that whichever device you were on, you got the appropriate header layout for that device, which was one way of getting around it. Plenty of things you can do with that, to be honest. What you might have noticed, and I don't know whether anybody was spotting that at the time, but you can also, within PageBuilder Pro for certain, you can limit access to view that add-on by Joomla user group. So I've got one web membership site for a client where when they log in, they get landed on a page that displays the courses they've signed up to. And we've put a little image and a button link on the landing page to each course. However, so that everyone that logs in doesn't see every course, we've actually limited the access to each image and button combo to the user group that person signed up to in the membership platform. So it's a little bit of a freebie cheat tool there to do. Quite useful, to be honest. Joomla's got this custom add-on, custom access control available. You can create user groups and access levels to your heart's content and hide and show things for registered users, logged in users, admin, all sorts of things, that whatever you need to, the same as you can with Joomla content and that type of stuff. So that's PageBuilder. I mean, realistically, that is as complicated as it gets. You've got your column options for the split of the columns across to mobile. You've also got, which you may not have noticed there, now this is going to be a little bit more difficult to do. I'll have to use 3 of these very strange people that get uploaded to empty page builder sites. I'm going to put these 3 lovely people in there so that we've got 3 different pictures, and you'll see what happens when I start to change the order of the columns. And I'm going to put that back to 4, and then 4 for the sake of testing. So now I've got 3 lovely people at the top of the home page, and they are man with glasses, girl with blonde hair, and a man with dreadlock type hair at the end. So at the moment on mobile, again, they will stay in that order, left to right, same as they are for desktop. We can change that. So I'm going to reverse them, for example. I'm going to go to column options of column 3, and in responsive, I'm going to say mobile order 1. I'm going to leave the lady in the middle, and I'm going to make the first column mobile order 3. I'm going to change hers to keep her in 2, just to be 100% sure that I've done it the right way, and save it. So again, remember the order. If I swap to mobile now, it flips the order. So it's now matched the order I've set in the background. Where have I used this before? Sometimes on a row, perhaps with text on the left, image on the right, for example, and on a desktop, perhaps it does this. So if I let's change that one. I'm going to delete that out. Delete that out. I'm going to change this to 8 and 4. So say I've got an image on the right and a text block on the left, and for the sake of it, I'm going to just change those to be empty and empty. I don't want any settings on there in terms of any of these options that I wanted before. Close them all down, so it's back to scratch again. So I'm taking out the ordering and the column fix. Say I've got a layout where I've got text on the left there, an image on the right, and I want to duplicate that row, but I'm going to swap them. So maybe there's a service, and then on the next column, the next row down, it's going to be the next service that you offer, or whatever product or part you've got on there. So I've got an alternating image text bank there. Now that's fine for desktop. It might work quite well for you. However, on mobile, what will happen is the order will stay. It'll flow left to right for those 2 rows. So if I go back to mobile, you'll see now I've got text, image, looking at that content, they're going to be if you've got a lot of columns and rows in there, that can get confusing to them. So to keep it all consistent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the image always the first thing. So at the moment, the first one I've got text, image, image, text as it flows down. So I'm going to change the column options for the text now to be 2 and the image one to be 1. Now I don't need to change the second one because it already flows left to right. You can if you want, but it won't make any difference to that at all. So I'm going to save that now. Desktop is the same, but now if I go to mobile view again, I've now got image text, image text. Perhaps that might make a little bit more sense just visually if I put a slight color to the background of that second row. Go away. Just to see the visual split of those two. Yep, so I've now got my white column, my white row, my grey row onto desktop, and then for mobile again, the white row, I've changed the order. So it goes now on mobile, image text, and then the next row, image text as well. So that helps you kind of create a consistent layout across device types, which is, you know, important to think about when you've got people that are using your website and what they're going to do with it and how they interact and view things on there, which is critical. You know, mobile phones now are still easily within the 60%, 70% viewer statistics in terms of what devices people look at websites from. So keeping it good on mobile is really useful to think about, and stuff like that. You can go really further, even certainly within a text block, for example. You can change the content font size for different devices. So say on desktop I want it at 18, mobile maybe for whatever reason I want it a bit smaller. Yeah, I would personally never recommend dropping beneath 16 pixels for font on mobile. The bigger the better within Sainsbury's. So there we go on desktop. Standard. So you can change that within there as well. Again, as always, you've got the mobile and the tablet options, so you can change them. Same for the line height of that content as well, to play with things quite a bit in terms of no comments coming through there. Nobody. If anybody's watching, do drop me a hashtag live. If you come back and watch me on a replay, drop me a hashtag replay. And as always, this will be dropped up onto YouTube within the next day or two for those that want to watch it again, once Facebook has decided to hide it down my timeline so you can't find it anymore. So that's page builder options for mobile stuff and playing around with how layouts work and content and add-ons and stuff to that effect within the page. What you can also do, now I think I've done this on mobile by default, the footer section go back down there. Yeah, by default the footer section on Helix is split. It's just into footer 1, footer 2 at the bottom, and it vertically stacks them. So I've got them split up into columns at the moment. If I go into Helix, and I'll show you what I mean hopefully, and then edit the template. Excuse me while I take a drink of something. I'm going to template options. If I go to the layout, I can edit again, a bit like we've just been doing on the columns and the rows. We can change by clicking that little dotty icon there. When we hover, we get a little dotty icon. I think that should be there all the time. I get the option to change the grid levels. So I can change, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 breakpoints here, which can be useful for people if you want to play. We can set the breakpoint for those columns to be 6 and 6, or inherit is going to be as it is when it comes out of the box. When you install Helix for the first time, these are basically just empty, and you'll see what happens now when I save this. Well, I can show you this in here. So by default, desktop is always split 2-2 because that's the standardized layout there. I'm going to save it. But if I go now to the mobile view, you'll see the footer is stacked and it overlaps each other. Yeah. Whereas what I want to do is, personally, I do this if you've got a lot of content in the footer. And again, for the bottom parts here, perhaps you want to split those into 6, 6, 6, 6. So you get a 4-way grid at the bottom for mobile, for example. I'm going to go back in here, change these to be 6 and 6 again. Go back, grid, 6 and 6 and apply. And this does it by default. I don't even have to save it unless I want to. I can save that and that's applied. So that's how I can split the footer up on any of these, whether it's a standard layout part you've got or whether it's something you've added yourself. You can play around with those to your heart's content. You can, for the sake of it, if you wanted to, you can also set them as fluid if you edit the actual row with the row settings bit there. You might want to do that sometimes. I've not done it on many areas, but perhaps you might want to on there. But we've got no, again, within the rows as well, we can do that in here. We can start to hide, again, across 5 breakpoints this time. We can start to hide some of these rows if we wanted to. Maybe you want a different footer layout on mobile and desktop or whatever, or you want to play around and have different things on different stuff. You can do that and just set them all on and off in here the same as you can. And it's a fairly standardized process. It's the same idea really across Page Builder and within Helix Ultimate for the builder, for the layouts. So there we go. I'm going to just save that back and come back from there. I've not had any questions over this week that were good to answer on a live video. Some of them were so big of a question that they literally need a video themselves, or basically some paid consultation time to actually take them on and have a look at stuff. I'm always a one for, as far as possible, working within the system. So yeah, you can dive into Helix and start really tweaking it and doing overrides and lots of things, which can be useful at some points. But for most people, and for ease of support, certainly long term, I like to keep it within the framework and do it the way that JoomShaper have designed the tools to be used, because I tend to find longevity of that site is better. Support is easier because we haven't done anything randomly strange. So if we need to come back and change it, we haven't got to dive back into all the code again. So there's an awful lot you can do within there, within Page Builder and Helix. So that's me for today. I've had no comments in the video this morning or this afternoon even. So if you have anything to follow up on from there, do drop me a comment in here after you've watched it back later on replay. Drop me hashtag replay and I'll pop a link to my YouTube channel and to Page Builder if you haven't seen it already, so you can go and grab a look. Please subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I'm going to be growing it continuously with everything I add. Ad infinitum, I've got no end to that. It's just going to be there to do. And for those who are really wanting to learn more about Page Builder and Joomla, keep an eye out. I've got something exciting coming up in the coming months. I did announce it yesterday under the name Dissolve, so go back and have a nosy. I'll be launching something great for you guys. Oh, I've got a comment there. Anything exciting before I disappear off? Let's have a look. Thank you. There we go. That's good. That doesn't need an answer other than thank you as well. No problem at all. So thanks for watching, guys. Come back next week and I'll see you again then. Thank you. Bye-bye.